are whack.
Yep.
We do not like technical difficulties. We apologize
It's
for the
whack,
late.
man. It's whack.
It's
It's
whack.
whack. It's
Technical
whack. But we
difficulties are
back.
whack.
It's
We're
whack.
back.
Hey, are we live? How are we doing this
We're,
today, man? Are we live?
we're live. We're a little
Are we?
tardy. We're a
Are
little
we
tardy.
tardy for the party? But are we
We're
live?
tardy for the
That's my.
party. We
I
are
then
live.
because if we live, I might need to. I might need to hit share. If we live,
You better
somebody out there
share.
should share. If we live, I
Sharing is
mean,
caring. We love sharing.
if they care, they would share. I'm right
Mm-hmm.
now. I'm scrolling down on my doohickey, waiting for.
Sharing. Wait for it to come up.
I'm waiting for it to come up so I can see something to share. You know what I'm saying? And if you're watching this while you're waiting, hit share, man. Hit like, subscribe, hit share, all that kind of stuff.
Share
man.
with friends and family.
We got some technical issues
this.
going on today, man. Technical issues on my side, basically, what it boils down to.
Yeah, we're tardy because we wanted to make sure we got on here legit, and we were having some technical audio issues.
Absolutely. So if you watching this, okay, wait a minute. Now I see you popped up. Two eyeballs.
Did
It's
you
probably
charge?
me and you.
Yeah. Did you charge your headphones?
Man, I did, man. They like fully charged, man. Even the green light is on and everything, man. Can you see the green light?
Oh,
green light is on and everything, man. I don't know what the deal with
that is, man. Time for you to get some IT support. That computer is whack.
I don't know, man, but I'm blaming you because you bought all this for me.
What? No, see, user error.
Nah, man, I'm blaming you, man. I'm blaming you. What I'm not blaming you for is that I am Kirk M. Samuels.
That's right, and I am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Men of Masculinity, baby.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you, even though we're late.
And by the way, we are live. Right now, we not only are we live here, what we've been doing, and this is going to be our pattern for a while, man, is we got Mad Men Radio. We're over the air, FCC airwaves, yes. KLDC 1220 AM in Denver, Colorado.
Saturday morning at 8 a.m.
Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. golf cart hours.
Replays at Wednesday at 6 p.m. for you night owls.
Absolutely. So yeah, if you around the Mile High City, check us out. We over the air, man.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've been doing is we've been having these conversations kind of in two parts. We've been having kind of the over the air generic version. But then we've been like keeping it real, like Mad Men, kind of keeping it real stuff unfiltered here. On the socials, Facebook and YouTubes and everything else. And if you watch this, like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff, man. So that's how we've been doing this thing, man. And so yeah, man, this conversation that we're having today live should air, if you're watching this live, should air this coming weekend. Either way, if you're in Denver, check it out. KLDC 1220 AM. Or you
if you don't know what a radio is anymore, you don't know what a dial is, you can get on the interwebs and go to KLDC.com and you can listen live at Saturday at 8 a.m. or Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Stream that bad boy. You know what I'm saying? Let me fix my little thing, man. So yeah, man, we've been loving these conversations, man. We've been having these deep conversations, man. And and this conversation is kind of pseudo fathers ish,
pseudo in honor,
as we honor Father's Day, and as we honor just fatherhood, but just the spirit of fatherhood, and more so specifically, just the art of passing down wisdom, man, and just just the stuff that we do as men, or we should do anyway, of just passing down what we learned. We don't have to know everything, but the things that we do learn from experience, we should be passing these things down.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to help out the younger generation, the next generation, to maybe dodge some landmines, maybe to avoid some of the brick walls we have run face first in. As older men with a little bit of wisdom and a little bit of experience, we can share these things and hopefully save the younger generation some time and some heartache and some pain. I mean, pain is something needed for growth. However, you don't have to have all of it. Some of it you can learn secondhand and avoid the big pitfalls and the big landmines and the things that will affect you for years to come.
And I mean, before we go any further, we should point out kind of something magical that just happened not too long ago as we record this a few days ago. Your boy got his very first hole in one.
Yes, he did.
And you were there to witness that along with a couple other people. So
yes.
So, you know,
Congratulations.
that's pretty
Golf clap for
magical.
you. Golf clap. Golf clap for
Golf
you,
clap,
sir.
golf clap, golf clap, golf clap, golf clap. So yeah, man. I mean that was pretty dope when that happened. That was pretty cool. I got my ace, my very first ace.
Yes.
Um,
It was a good shot. It was fun to watch.
it was a pretty good shot, man, to see it roll up in there. Um, and so as we do, as we've done in the past, after we go play, you and I end up somewhere, eating, talking, chatting,
Yeah.
and man, we got to talking about just this whole wisdom idea, this passing
Yep.
down of some information and some knowledge and stuff, man. And a lot of it spurred from just some conversations I had with my son.
Yep. Well,
And
he's at the perfect time right now. I mean, that he's just graduated high school. He's transitioning into the military, the manhood, and
yeah,
having being able to have someone who has some extra life experience, some wisdom to say, "Hey, watch out for these things," and
yeah,
not only watch out for these things, but let me make it easy for you. Let me bust
yeah.
it down.
Yeah. I mean, and I think again, this is the reference for this is a conversation between me and my son.
Yep.
Um, at the same time, I think a lot of this has to do with just us men sharing what we know and
Yeah.
passing down some tribal knowledge. And in his case, he was kind of he was kind of like not too long ago, he's kind of like, man, what do I do? The world seems like huge, this big, and it seems like a little bit overwhelming. And he kind of had a wilderness experience, man. And how many of
Mhm.
us men have had a wilderness experience? And some of that involves
Hi,
just
my
us
name's
going
Jason. I've had a wilderness
right.
experience.
And that's normal, right? I mean, that's one of the things that, to be able to talk to him and be able to have these conversations, like, dude, I've been there too, and
Yeah.
learn some stuff. And when you're in those situations, it's okay.
Yeah.
And excuse me. And to have these conversations, like, what, it's all right, man, and to be able to relate. And at some point, like for most of us, the light comes on.
Yeah.
And we the goal is not to freak out in the time where the light comes on.
Yeah. Yeah,
So that
I mean, I definitely want to get us to, since we're on a shorter time frame tonight, get us to what you broke down, because I think
yeah.
it's so important, especially when you're at that age where the world is your oyster and there's so many, I mean, the infinite possibilities, and you're just looking
Mhm.
around like, what do I do? What do I
Yeah.
focus on? Which way do I go? And it seems so overwhelming, and I think it would have been so nice to have some of these conversations with my father.
Yeah.
Although maybe in hindsight, he was probably thinking, maybe I should have had some of those conversations with him before
Yeah.
he ran into the wall head first.
Yeah.
But, breaking things down a little simply to go, hey, don't worry about all of that. How
Yeah.
about this?
And likewise, I wish I would have had a lot of those conversations with mine too, right? So at this point where I think, man, I've messed up a whole lot and
Hmm.
quote unquote failed a whole lot. Really, what I did was maybe pay some price, maybe paid for some lessons that he can learn. And so in this big context, yeah, to get to the point in this big context, man, I kind of broke it down to him like, you don't have to have everything figured out in life. You don't have to have what you want to do for the rest of your life figured out. Just figure out the next thing. To figure out the next thing. The first one was the first aha mile marker was the whole wilderness experience. And,
Mhm.
we go through that. We kind of go around the mountain sometimes out in the desert and until we end up in the promised land. And so that's okay. But then beyond that, like, okay, here's the things in life, like, that you it would be good to know, 30 years from now. And I'm 30 years older than him. And so I can go back and rewind the tape and be like, okay, first of all, you don't have, man, how many of us are still trying to figure out what we want to be when we grow up, right? and
Still
and
looking.
and still looking right. And so you don't have to have all that figured out. And that's, it's cool for the young cats to know. You don't have to have it all figured out. Just figure out the next thing. And then you got time to hit the reset button. You got time to have 2 or 3 careers,
Hmm.
going forward. So, things like that. And then even then the picture is still kind of big. So I got real with them.
Broke it down
And I
real.
broke it down even a little bit more. I said, okay, let's take that. Now here's two things. Here's two things that if we just narrow down the don'ts, there's a whole
Yep.
lot of don'ts, don't. But let's
The
narrow down
main
to
two
two,
things.
two don'ts.
Yep.
And that is, at his point where he's making that transition, he's like at the point where you got the clutch pushed in and you going from one gear to the next. Speaking to a driver, um, you know, where you're making that transition. Here's two things to focus on. How about this? How about you don't get locked up and you don't get nobody knocked up? How about that?
Right.
Like if we just narrow it all down to those two things right now, almost anything else we can recover from fairly easily.
Yep.
Those two things will put a huge speed bump, roadblock, barrier, or whatever in your life, and it takes you from doing what you want to do to doing what you got to do. And
Yep.
so, just narrowing it down to that, and it's okay to have a girl, it's okay to have
Mhm.
friends and all that kind of stuff, but don't let your boys get you caught up in some stupidness that gets you locked up, and don't let a girl, get you caught up in, in the knocked up scenario
Yep.
where now all of a sudden, that tip costs you 18 years, just the tip. Just the tip is
That's
18
an
years.
expensive tip, boy. I'll
18
tell you what.
years, 18 years, and at his 18th birthday, he found out what he is.
It wasn't his.
Shout out
Yeah, I mean,
Kanye.
that's a great what's what the older generation, the wiser masculine, men can offer is to simplify things. Because I
Yeah,
mean, the world is huge and opportunity is huge, and you get overwhelmed, and especially as a young man, you just graduate high school, you're just heading out into the world, and you don't know what to focus on, you don't know what to make a priority. Well, how about these are 2 things to make sure you don't do.
right.
The rest of it can come and go. You can
Yeah,
go check things out and see what fits for you, see what resonates with you. But these 2 things, make sure these are the 2 most important things until you're ready, until you have a path, until you're like, okay, I'm a man now. Now I'm ready for those things.
right.
I can move in that direction. But I mean, you should never get locked up, though. It happens from time to time. Hopefully for overnight, nothing bigger than that.
Right,
You should never knock up the girl unless
right,
it's on purpose.
right,
Like
right,
that's
right,
that's that's a life decision right there. It's not just
right.
about you. That's life for you,
Yeah,
for her, for the kid,
yeah.
all of y'all.
And some of these are lessons that I've learned personally, and some of these lessons that I've seen other men go through,
Mhm.
and other people experience. And it's one of those, and when I have run that by a couple other guys, even guys older than me, they're like, "Yup, man, if he can at 19, if he can keep it that simple, don't get a felony, and and don't get a felony or a fetus,
Yep.
you'll be all right at this point. There'll be a time for when you're established, when you work on you got your career, you got all your stuff, you got all your poop in the group. Then you might be ready for for the family and the kid and all these other kind of things. But right now, you need to work it. You need to focus on you getting your
Yep.
life, your career, getting all that stuff in place before you even worry about all that.
Yeah, and speaking of focusing on you and your career, you gotta follow your heart, you gotta follow the things that resonate with you,
Right.
and especially at that age, right out of high school or getting if you're a junior, senior in high school, that you may think your friends in high school are gonna be your friends forever. You may think they have like your best interests at heart. They don't. They don't even know what they want to do. They don't even have their own best interests at heart. So you
Yeah.
got to follow your path and make sure you're on, your road going where you need to go and not let anybody, even family, stop you. Like you
Hmm.
don't know what you're gonna do, but you need to go this direction to find, because that path goes like this. It's
Yeah.
winding, it's up and down, and everything else. So there is no straight line to the end of the road. We're all going on this winding path. So don't allow those knuckleheads
Yeah.
who you think are your buddies and you think are your best friends in high school, who I'll be honest with you, once you get out of high school for a little bit, you ain't never gonna see him again. You ain't never gonna talk to him again. I mean, unless
Right.
you stay in the same town or whatever. If you leave, that those are just gonna be fond memories. So don't let
Yeah.
those fond memories turn into the worst nightmare that gets you stuck
Yeah.
because you went out with some knuckleheads. I mean, I had my experience. I mean, night before my graduation, I almost got arrested for something that wasn't even mine because I was hanging out with knuckleheads and spent 2 hours in the back of a police car going, "Oh Lord, please get me out of this. Oh
Hmm.
Lord,"
Hmm.
and that's because I thought these people were my friends. I thought, they had my best interest, or at least they cared enough to not put me in some sort of jeopardy like that, and they didn't care. So, I mean, lesson learned. Now we can pass that down to the younger generation. And go, hey, you can be their friend, you can like them, whatnot. Don't let them curtail your success and your future by being knuckleheads and being young and immature and dumb. Really.
And these are, the whole point behind this is these are lessons as us as men that we have to offer, and when you get holidays like Father's Day that comes around,
Mhm.
quite often Father's Day, is definitely junior varsity when it comes to to celebrating, parental celebration
Right.
day, right? I mean, quite often, I mean, you can't get a reservation anywhere on Mother's Day, but Father's Day, you can pretty much walk up and you might have to wait a few minutes, but that's about it. And so us as fathers, we can feel like, especially in those earlier years when they're in school, when they're young, we can feel like, man, we're kind of secondary, to mom in terms of significance and
Mhm.
important. And, to some degree that might, you can make arguments in either way in terms of value or significance or whatever.
Yeah.
But the point being, sometimes, and I'm just really finding out that at this point, like this is, I may not have. I feel like I may not have had a whole lot to offer up to now, but I feel like for now, for sure, man. Like
Mhm.
I'm, it's like it's kicking in terms of like, dude, these are
Yeah.
dimes that I'm dropping, man. And, he and I've had some conversations, man, and it's like, wow,
Yeah. I mean, that is a great point. As the men in a relationship as the fathers whatnot, we may not have as much influence. I mean, we probably have more influence than we think as the kids are growing up. But then once they
yeah,
hit puberty and start coming out and like getting grown and start coming out into the world, that's when we need to have those reality checks, those real conversations. Like, hey, I need to prepare you to be a successful human being and a
right,
successful adult out in the world, which means I'm not gonna coddle you. I'm gonna be
yeah,
real with you. I'm gonna let you, have your journey in the wilderness and make mistakes. I'm gonna be here to help you work through those mistakes and get the wisdom from those mistakes. But I'm not gonna coddle you anymore because my coddling you in the house may be one thing. Once you're out the house, that does you
yeah,
no favors whatsoever. I wish in some ways I would have had some of these conversations where it's like, hey, pay attention to this, look at this.
yeah,
These are the things that are important as you get out in the world. Because
yeah,
I had to learn those, kind of on my own. Like I didn't have any guideposts or road signs that said, "Hey, pay attention to this," or
yeah,
"Danger this way," "Detour." These are things I ran headlong into a lot of those things and went, "Oh, I should
yeah.
probably go the other way."
And I almost feel like as I think about this, I almost feel like, motherhood gets you through childhood, but
Mhm.
fatherhood gets you through adulthood, right?
Yeah.
And so when you don't have, that's not saying that neither one is less important than the other. When
Mhm.
I think when you get into adulthood, when there was a lack of a father, that's when the lack of,
Right.
of a father presence in your life shows up in terms of the dysfunctionality of an adult, right? And I think when you're an adult, not having the nurturing that maybe
Mhm.
somebody else might have had from a mother when you were young, it could hurt you in some ways. And so, but the point being, from a father's perspective, you know, it can feel like we're kind of second place, but we have all of the burden. It kind of feels like you know, yeah, it kind of feels like we're in the passenger seat, but at the same time we get the ticket if the car gets pulled over for speeding or whatever, right? And so that's how it can feel. And so from a value perspective. For us to be able to share that wisdom, to share that info, and to come at it from a different way, when when he got into a fight and in his words, he I don't think he was overly like happy with the outcome of the physical like fist fight that he got in, and it was for a good reason.
Mhm.
And it was like, what, okay, but you survived. The
Yeah.
wisdom wasn't, oh, poor baby. And I was like, you survived, didn't you? You might have,
Yeah.
it might have been ugly, but at the same time, it's like
Did you
Friday,
die?
it's like, no, 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 but put the gun down, son. We fight like these, and you
Yeah.
win some, you lose some, but you
You
come
live
back
to
to fight
fight
another
another
day.
day.
And
Yeah.
so when we have all these young men that don't get these kind of lessons, this kind of wisdom passed down, then they end up, violent and
Mhm.
taking out masses of people, whether it's in grocery stores or schools or whatever,
Yeah, or taking
and so
themselves out.
this is where you see the absence of this kind of stuff. And so, here's the presence that's needed, I think, in these young guys' lives of passing down this wisdom that
Mhm.
is not necessarily putting band-aids on boo-boos, but it's it's the kind of wisdom that affects the rest of their life, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's where us as the older men, even if we don't have kids of our own, being an advisor or being open to coaching and giving some advice or just being there as a mentor figure to younger men, because there's so much experience that you get through years. that you may not even think, well, I'm not a dad. Who am I to say, who am I to give advice? But you have 20, 30, 40 more years experience than these young men
Right.
or even young girls. And like, we can give them some reality. Like, look, I'm not going to be, sugarcoating it. I'm going to tell you real. Like, these are
Yeah.
things you need to pay attention to, and these are the
Yeah.
repercussions if you don't. And a lot of these things I learned on my own. So I would like to save you 20 or 30 years of heartache or trouble or trauma
Right.
by giving you some advice and being here to be a sounding board or someone say, hey, maybe that wasn't the best idea. What'd you learn from that?
Yeah.
Here's my experience. Here's what I think, and here's how you can move forward. Because I think you were right when you said before that this, you know suck it up and rub some dirt in. It was actually meant in a good way, because if you can't hit the ground and get back up and dust yourself off and move forward, you're not really prepared for the world, because the world
Mhm.
is just going to keep knocking you down. You got to learn how to get back up and keep going.
Yeah. I mean, it's a dangerous thing to pretend like, like a father presence, just presence in the
Yeah.
picture is not significant, not important, man. And it's quite often when families break up and fall apart, and you got mom going this way, dad going this way, and kids either in the middle both ways, or kids go, with mom, or it's quite often happens and that kind of stuff. But to pretend, that us not being there is okay. That's a huge problem, man.
Yeah.
That's a gargantuan problem. And luckily, with my son, when me and his mom, got divorced, I mean, we didn't have any of that kind of drama and all that kind of stuff. And I, didn't step out of his or his sister's life at all. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and so luckily we had that great kind of thing where, she was just as active keeping me in as part of everything as I was with her. And
Yeah.
we were probably on more of a more of a page than the kids were, because they would try to get stuff over. So point being, there was no agenda on her part to remove me from their
Mm.
lives. And so even though I still felt like, man, that, I ain't got much to offer. My house ain't as nice or pretty. I don't have a refrigerator full of food like mom does. And, I don't do the lovey-dovey and all that kind of stuff. But at this point, I'm like, man, you know what? Me being here and
Yeah.
being able to pass on wisdom and knowledge and information is huge.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, that whether you're a father or an uncle, just an older gentleman around younger men, just your presence.
Hmm.
They learn so much just by watching you, just by seeing how you handle the world, how you handle yourself. So you may not think that you're contributing anything, but just your presence and that feeling of safety, that feeling of knowing that there's a strong male presence, a healthy male
Yeah.
presence
Mhm.
around to make them feel safe and secure. Because
Yeah.
it's so interesting when you see kids who don't have that feeling of security. They're very clingy and needy, and they don't explore out into the world very much. But then you see
Yeah.
those kids that have that feeling of safety and security. Those kids are off everywhere exploring the woods, like, because they feel that security, they feel that presence. And so being able to be that presence and pass on some of that wisdom and some of the things you learned, whether it's verbally or just through actions and just through your presence, is
Yeah.
still having an impact. And I think it's one of the things we maybe don't see as much or don't talk about as much, because it's not as out there. It's more
Yeah.
of a beingness thing, and it's more quiet, but it's
Yeah.
still having an impact. Men are having an impact on the next generation.
And to be able to see just see the male presence from a masculinity perspective. We are the men of masculinity. And
Mhm.
I mean, shoot, when Elon Musk put some people on Mars, maybe we'd be the first radio show on Mars.
That's right. Mad men
Mad
on
men of
Mars.
Martian masculinity, man. Because men are from Mars. But by having that physical male presence there is huge. And oh, by the way, dad's love and mom's love can look totally different.
Yeah.
And I mean, they can look, I mean, completely night and day different. As a matter of fact, tough love is love too, right? If it's
Yes.
a tough love presentation. But but to deny that, to deny the kids the presence of that is a detriment
Yeah.
to them. I mean, again, man, we got this generation, you hear in the news that there was some kind of mass shooting or something like that.
Mhm.
And and immediately you could jump straight to the case. As a single, probably young ish
Mhm.
male, teen, early 20s male. Why is that? You know, I
No
mean,
father
why is that
figure.
pretty common? Because they don't know, they haven't gotten in the presence of a man or other men that'll say, you know
Mhm.
what? Yeah, life sucks. You know, yeah,
Yeah,
you might get bullied, or yeah, you might be frustrated, or yeah, whatever. But you don't need to take it out on nobody. You know,
yeah,
it's so like you're not the only one. It's okay. I've been through that too. You know,
yeah.
those kind of things are why we have this next generation of whatever. So to be able to have this kind of wisdom passed down, or
Mhm.
different types of wisdom passed down to next generation is huge.
Yeah, I think, I mean, kind of back to your point before, like the necessity of both the mother and the father. And the mother is very much the emotional keystone, the one that helps you feel, intimate and secure with your own emotions, helps you feel that way that, it's okay however you are internally. And the father really is about the lessons learned and the reality building. And I want to prepare you for the world. Like,
Yeah.
my dad would buy me tools and teach me how to change tires, and things like practical things that don't seem like all this wisdom and stuff, but they're so practical and necessary moving out into the world to be able to just take care of yourself, just be able to function.
Yeah.
And even having those times where we make jokes about, oh, the little kids getting ready to stick the fork in the light socket, and mom would be like, no, 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 cover the light sockets. The dads be like, whoa, whoa, just wait, wait. Oh, I bet you won't do that again.
Right.
Oh, it hurt,
Yeah.
didn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, it
Yeah.
hurt, didn't
Yeah.
it? Well,
Yeah.
don't do
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
again. And
Yeah.
it's just a different way of parenting, but it's still love. It's still preparing the younger generation, the next generation for adulthood to get out into the world and to be, healthy and competent adults.
Yeah. You know, and for the woman that's thinking, you know, man, well, my ex-husband doesn't want to be around the kids, or my ex-husband is a bad father, and all this kind, that's the exception. We're not we
Mhm.
we can't build our conversations on the exception. 51 out of 100 men are good men, at
Yeah.
least, right? I mean, and so, you know, good men, at least good hearted. We may be ill equipped. We may not have had these conversations with our father, but that doesn't mean we don't want to have these conversations with our son. We may not know how. We may, you know, maybe opportunity, all these other kind of things. And so we're talking about the 51 out of 100. And if you
Mhm.
keep finding bad men, lady, if you keep coming across bad men and you keep dating bad men and keep marrying bad men, the problem is not bad men. The problem
Yeah.
is your picker, right? So
Yeah.
so these kind of things are hugely important. And I think before we close this thing out, I think it's you know, it's vital to say that along with the wisdom passing down from generation to generation,
Mhm.
it's brothers passing wisdom to other
Yeah.
brothers. I mean, when even when I had my father journey, which was part of him going through his wilderness journey, if it wasn't for, you know, if it wasn't for guys like you, which direction you in, you and other men in my life that were encouraging me, like, yeah, you know, and keeping me grounded, I would have probably lost my mind. And so,
Yeah.
you know, part of this journey with other men is passing along wisdom and perspective to other men.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, we've had the Wolfpack episode where, a
Mhm,
man needs his wolf pack. He needs to have good, healthy men around him. And I think
mhm,
just being in a pack and having guys around you, you will already be influencing the younger generation and getting around other good men and good hearted men. You will naturally, I mean, I don't think I ever would have done a rite of passage ceremony and been a part of something like that if I hadn't been, in connection with you and with that whole group. And, that was not just life changing for the boys, but it was also for us as well to be
mhm,
able to impart something that we never received. I mean, a
mhm.
rite of passage has just been forgotten in this world. And so there is no delineation between, okay, you're a boy, now you're becoming a man. You're no
Yeah,
longer a boy, now you're becoming a man. You're not a man yet, but you're
yeah,
becoming a man. For
yeah.
most of us, especially those of us that dealt with, nice guy syndrome and all those things that we've talked about before, you,
Mhm.
you become an adult man not feeling like an adult man. You don't feel like a man. You still feel like a boy. And there was
Mhm.
no delineation. There was no other man or older man mentoring us and saying, all right, now you're becoming a man. Now you're
Right.
crossing that threshold. And so
Mhm.
I think being around other men and having a good group of men will naturally put you in that position to be a mentor and to help the next generation, even if you don't have your own kids, because it just becomes part of that. Like, hey guys, let's help the young men. Let's make sure that these young men don't do the knucklehead things that we see out there. Let's get
Yeah,
out there and support them in one way or the other. But
yeah,
by just being present, I mean, you see how many times there's something going on at a school and then the fathers show up
yeah,
and it stops.
yeah.
And they're not doing anything but being present and watching out.
Mhm. And to your point, you don't even need, you don't even need sons, I don't think, to be able to be in order to be a father figure. You know, when we did that rite of passage thing, man, you were there the whole time, and you don't have any kids, at least any kids that you know about.
Oh, I know.
And so, I mean, and so, you know,
See, I remember
being
rule
able,
number 2.
that would be, yeah, that we don't get that. And so, you know, to be able to we all have that wisdom to be able to pass that down, you know, to the next generation, even when you don't have any, is absolutely is huge, man. It's huge. So
And that's why we do what we do. That's why we're here running our mouths and being being funny in front of y'all, because we want to be impactful and help out.
Ladies and
So that
gentlemen,
time,
this is your captain. This is your captain, and we'd like to thank you for flying with Mad Men Radio here today. We are lining up on runway 23 left. We're going to bring this in for our landing, and we should be pulling into gate B12, and your luggage will be on carousel 11. Thank you for flying with us, and we'll see you next time.
Lining up on a runway here, JBK, man. What do you think, man? What do you think?
I think, remember, if you're a young man and you're not ready for all that, don't get locked up. Don't knock them up, and follow your heart.
Boom.
Simple, easy peasy. What about you, sir?
And I would say, you know, to men, first of all, if you're listening to this, if you happen to be listening to this around a Father's Day, I want to honor all of you men out there who are fathers, and all of you who pass down fatherly advice to younger men. Thank you, Janine. There she is, our #1 fan. Thank you for having such amazing art. You're blessing to so many. We love you so much. You're. We have other people that debate us whether you're #1,
but you're always here, so
you're always there. You're a vocal majority, and so we appreciate you. But to honor all of you men out there who are fathers, and understanding that what we have to offer as fathers and as men, whether we necessarily feel equally valued to motherhood in the early years or not, our value is life lasting in terms of the stability of adults everywhere. And so to honor all you men out there, you know, man, I appreciate you, and I know most of us were not equipped for the calling that we have in our lives, but we still wake up every day, and we still, you know, put on our shoes, and we still show up. And so I honor all of you guys, and so I encourage all of you guys to continue to plug into one another, continue to plug into the Mad Men Radio. You know, again, KLDC 1220 AM Saturday mornings at 8 a.m.
Perfect golf time.
You know, and Wednesdays at 6 p.m. You can hear us over the FCC airways. We're taking this thing to the next level. And so we're
going to Mars.
We're going to Mars, Mad Men of Mars, you know, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, just want to appreciate.
If you're wondering about the Mars inside joke, you may have to go to the replay on the on YouTube and look up Mad Men Masculinity, because we had an hour. We only have 30 minutes here, so we can't get it all to it.
But honoring all you guys out there, we love you guys, and we have these conversations for you and for us that we can advance this thing together. We don't have it all together, but we believe that we can help facilitate this journey and get us to where we need to be. So we love all of y'all, and we will absolutely
appreciate y'all. Keep showing up, keep getting up. We'll see you next time.
Mad Men out.
Out.